Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment would eliminate a 2% collection fee charged by the federal government. The revenue from the development on federal land is supposed to be shared 50-50 with the states, with the host state where the development takes place. This is a surcharge that significantly shortchanges states like Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, and lots of others, these are just to name a few. And they shortchange our states to the tune of millions of dollars every year. So while it might sound like a relatively small sum, this adds up in western states like mine, and this is revenue that states were promised and that they should be able to keep in state hands. This is money that needs to be available to be spent on local schools, on infrastructure, on law enforcement, and other needs of these local communities. And so I'd like to call up that amendment and have a roll call vote.
Is there discussion on the amendment? I will just note that we see this amendment from a longstanding bill that has been pursued by Senator Enzi as he has worked to advance resource-producing states' rights and interests in the portion of revenues that go to the states. So I want to thank you, Senator Lee, for bringing this up. You're a strong advocate for those of us in the West with significant federal land holdings. We have seen revenues from federal lands devalued by federal delays, but we've also seen the revenues diminished and delayed by administrative fee assessments through sequestration, other federal processes. So I look at this and would suggest that what we're effectively doing here is allowing the states to directly manage the receipt of these revenues, which I would certainly support. Senator Stabenow?
Yes, I appreciate what my friend has said about what's happening, but I wonder if you could comment that that we're told the amendment actually conveys the rights of the federal lands with mineral leases. So rights to federal lands with mineral leases would be conveyed to the states. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it's just the right to the percentage. There's no conveyance of federal property here. That would be fun if we were having that discussion, but this is this is just the right to the incremental 2 percentage points that are taken off of the state's share of the development. It was supposed to be 50-50 from the outset. The federal government took away 2% and imposed it as part of a collection fee, and it wasn't supposed to be that way.
Is there any language that could clarify that? I mean, because that's a big difference from the way it's being analyzed in terms of conveying the rights of federal lands with mineral leases, which would be a very big deal.
Yes, it would, and that's certainly not our intent. I don't believe that's what it says. If there's language to the contrary, I'd be happy to look at it to see if we need to change it. But I'm not aware of anything in the text that would suggest that.
Can I ask our counsels here in terms of the language that you have? Maybe you can help clarify for Senator Stabenow here.
Well, I would suggest if this is adopted and reported by the committee that we could make this clear in report language.
This is conveying property rights.
Yeah,
Senator,
Mr. Fowler.
Senator, the 2% administrative fee was first imposed by this committee in 1993 pursuant to reconciliation instructions. It was then later suspended by Secure Rural Schools in about 2000. It was reimposed by the Bipartisan Budget Act in 2013. It is a simple subsection in the Mineral Leasing Act that could be struck, as indeed it was waived in 2000. What the pending amendment does, though, is, as you described, Senator Stabenow, it conveys all right, title, and interest to the federal government's royalties that are now put in the Treasury and then split, given to the Treasury. This would convey all right, title, and interest to that percentage.
Yes.
The 50% percentage. So it would, in mining law terms, it would create a royalty interest that would be taken out of the federal government share.
And if, Madam Chair,
Senator Lee, and then Senator Heinrich wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I thank Mr. Fowler for his explanation. It's absolutely correct. And if you want to follow along On page 2 of the amendment, lines 20 through 22, that's where it says that Secretary of the Interior shall convey to the state all right, title, and interest in and to the percentage. So it's that percentage, it's the 50% of revenue due to the state, the other 50% going to the federal government. So again, like I say, it would be a lot of fun if we wanted to talk about a conveyance of the land or anything else. We're not talking about that. We're simply talking about to that percentage that was previously specified as 50% going to the state, that's been reduced down to 48% because of this administrative surcharge.
Let's go to Senator Heinrich and then Senator Gardner.
I think the difference here is this creates a property right as opposed to creating a policy. So if we want to create a policy, we should just strike the language that is currently governing. If we do this, we create a permanent property right. So we tie the hands of future Congresses to undo that or to set it at a different level.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But it's my understanding, though, Senator Lee, perhaps you could answer this, that this is not transferring a federal mineral interest or, excuse me, federal mineral right to the states, that the mineral right on this public land won't be held by the state. It's just the mineral royalty right itself, correct?
That is correct.
This will never make it through the House.
Madam Chair, I would just
Senator
say, at this point, I am a no, but open to supporting it if we could clarify this at some point. It just seems to me there's a big question here about, and what Senator Heinrich said in terms of addressing this in another way that solves the problem being focused on without getting into a permanent change here as it relates to money from property rights.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
can I just respond at that point? Yeah, so the purpose there, what it does, again, it's just to the percentage, and it makes clear that once that revenue has been identified, you're saying that the percentage allocated to the state belongs to the state, so that it's no longer subject to the administrative discretion of the federal government. That's all that's saying. There's no way you could construe that as providing anything other than what the state already was owed and always paid prior to this change a couple of decades ago that resulted in the 2% administrative surcharge. It's just the right, title, and interest to that percentage. It's just the royalty. That's all they get.
Senator Cortez Masto.
Thank you. And I think I absolutely have similar concerns that I'm hearing from my colleagues. And I think it's just the term of art, right, title, and interest, which is a legal term of art transferring property. So I would suggest that if we can strike even the term title and use some other term that is not traditional term, legal term that's used to transfer property, that might be helpful, and I would be supportive.
Madam Chairman.
If I can respond, I think I can do that. What if we did this? That's a good suggestion. I can probably make it even easier. What if we just said, shall convey to the state the percentage? And then we delete all right, title, and interest in and to. We just say, shall convey to the state the percentage specified in that subsection for the state.
Madam Chairman.
Senator
Madam Chairman, if I could, I'd like to ask Mr. Fowler, you said this has been done twice before, correct?
That's correct,
I think
Senator.
what we're talking about is 2%.
2%,
Well, I
that's right.
understand, 2%, from 48 to 50. You want to have the 50, you should have the 50. For whatever reason, Congresses before us decided that they needed 2% for the Budget Act, or basically to help offset the cost of administering. So what's the simplest way for us to do this without the concern that we have of basically deferring our responsibility?
The simplest thing to do is to strike subsection B of Section 35 of the Mineral Leasing Act of 1920. You could do that in a sentence. It would eliminate the 2% administrative fee.
Would the senator be receptive to that?
Sounds like we might be getting closer to a solution. It sounds like there's no disagreement in terms of what we're trying to do. We're just seeking to be cautious here about how it is structured.
Okay, I think we could do that. One concern I've got is that would leave it still subject to sequestration in the federal process, leaving the states in a subservient position. Mr. Fowler's right, that would take care of the 2%.
Right.
I suppose I could do it that way, or the way I described a moment ago, where we just say shall convey to the state the percentage. Is there any?
We might have a better chance, Mr. Senator, if I may, we might have a better chance of moving this through the House if we have a way that we can show that it's been done and has been a practice before that set precedent.
Let's do that.
So